Want to follow on today from last week's assembly that was led by Mr. Chislett and pick up on a topic that certainly dominates a lot of discussion about education at the moment for understandable reasons, and that is what you are all experiencing, which is remote learning. And I want to talk about it not just because it's something that we're all going through. It's also something that there's been a lot of guidance released over the last couple of days from groups like the Department for Education and from Ofsted. I've just written a long article about it, probably aimed more, to be honest, at parents than anyone else, picking up on some questions and answers. But I thought it would be helpful just to talk through what seems to be some of the really important issues about the education that you are all experiencing. Well, there's no doubt that the whole topic of live lessons is the one that most prominently figures in discussions of remote education. And had an email the other day from a student who said, "I hear that Lawrence Sheriff has opted out of live lessons," as if this was some kind of big decision that we'd made not to properly engage with remote learning. And I can see why in some cases people might think that, okay, you can't do face-to-face lessons. I know what's the next best alternative. Let's have a so-called live lesson. Let's say that for 5 hours a day, we are going to have teachers online talking to their students, and the students will be on the screen responding to what their teacher says. Now, I'm going to say more about how we are going to use this approach in a few minutes, and it's actually not the case that we've opted out. What we certainly have no intention of doing is saying that our main way of delivering education is through live lessons. Not least because if you sit in front of a screen for what would be the whole school day, it would be really tiring and really wearing. This week I've been doing some tutorials for a group of head teachers who are doing their training with us. And each of those tutorials lasted maybe about an hour. And it was really draining, really tiring. And that was with some input from other people as well. If that had been over 5 hours in one day, I'd have been worn out, but more important perhaps, they'd have been worn out as well. And I'd really question what they would learn from it. And also, of course, the real experience of education is not like that. If I went into a classroom and saw a lesson where it was just a teacher talking at a class for the whole time, I think I'd want to have a chat to them afterwards and say, come on, we need something that's a lot more varied than this. So actually, just offering someone talking at a screen for a long period of time for most of the day isn't a way to capture the experience of what lessons are actually like when you're here face to face at Lawrence Sheriff. But I don't want us to paint ourselves into a corner either. They're one tool that can be used. And I know that some staff are starting to use, for example, a little bit of a video conferenced extract for 10-15 minutes to offer feedback perhaps to a class on how a particular piece of work has gone, or to catch up, or to use it for a very specific purpose for a period of time. So we're not saying we always use them, but also we're definitely not saying we never use this form of live interaction. We're saying what we're going to do is use the strategies and methods that work best to help our students learn and that sometimes this approach might have a part to play in helping us all keep in contact. It's very interesting to read the guidance that's come out from the Department for Education, from Ofsted, in the last couple of days, because what it all emphasises is the need for balance. But actually, good learning involves lots of different things. The document that Ofsted have just put out talks about the really important thing being the curriculum. In other words, the whole range of different things you learn through all of the different lessons. And what matters, whether education is face-to-face or taking place remotely, is the quality of the way in which it helps you get to know more about the different parts of the curriculum. The way in which it helps you learn English or maths or science or history or geography or whatever else that it is. That's true for a face-to-face lesson, and that's true for remote education as well. We want it to be balanced and broad and to use a whole variety of different approaches. Sometimes that approach might be that kind of live contact we've talked about. Sometimes it might be using a video clip. Sometimes it might be using a lesson from another source. There's a really interesting website that benchmarks of best practice in lessons called the Oak National Academy. Some of their stuff's very good, stuff from the BBC. Often the best way to really learn something is to go and think, to go and do some research. It may be that you're doing some writing. It may be that there's a particular chance to at least exchange opinions with someone about how you respond. The idea of balance and breadth in the way that you learn is really important. And some approaches can transfer from what you would do in a face-to-face lesson. As I say, nothing can really replace the kind of live experience of being in school and having face-to-face teaching. That's why schools actually haven't changed that much if you look back over the last 150 years. The reason for that is not that they're stuck in the mud, it's because what they're doing fundamentally works. But some of the ideas that are used can be transferred across. For example, giving a whole range of different opportunities, having variety, people not just sitting listening for a long period of time, giving an opportunity to think, and also carefully considering the order in which you tackle ideas. So you go through it in a planned sequence, so it all sort of makes sense and helps you learn and helps you put together the different building blocks of your learning. Another thing that's been emphasised is feedback. And that's why we're going to great lengths to give you feedback. It may be feedback on something that's happened within a lesson. It might be a verbal feedback. It might be something recorded by a teacher. It might be something in writing. It might be, as I say, on occasions, getting everybody together and talking through how everyone responded to a particular piece of work. I was hearing this afternoon from a colleague about a piece of software that means that the teacher can talk over and leave a sort of a set of verbal comments, verbal feedback within Google Classroom. All kinds of ways of giving you feedback, but all very helpful to help you know how the learning is going, what's going well, what needs to improve. So what advice would I give from what we've seen so far about remote education in the term to date? Well, the first one builds on what Mr. Chislett said last week, but actually one of the best building blocks for education and learning, whether it's face-to-face or remote, is routine. And daily routine does matter. And yes, I do mean as part of that, but you should be out of bed, ready to learn, ready to begin lessons by 8:50. And that's when your first lesson should start, that you should follow the school timetable, including, of course, taking breaks, taking time for lunchtime. Do something different at the end of a school day, so there's a break between work time and home time. And the routine is a great way to get yourself moving steadily forward with your learning. Trying to complete work at strange or unconventional times might sometimes feel tempting, but actually it isn't going to help. Get into a daily routine of following the school day. Another piece of advice I very strongly give is don't rush. Sometimes parents have come back to us in the last couple of weeks and said, well, it's clear you're not setting enough work from a son or from a daughter because they've completed what's meant to be a day's work within an hour or a couple of hours. And of course we've had to say, well, actually, if that work had been done properly, it would have taken them about 5 hours. And sometimes it can be tempting to rush through the work so you can say, there we are, I've done it, but it's not going to help. It's counterproductive. It's very likely your teacher's going to come back to you and say, sorry, that's not met the standard that we expect, or you've not learned what you needed to learn. You're going to need to go back round and do it again. So you're not going to learn in the way that you need to. And actually, it may well take you more time because you're likely to end up being asked to repeat the exercise in some way or to look back at it in some way. Don't rush. Take the time that your teacher is telling you the activity should take. Take that opportunity, as I've mentioned earlier on, to grasp opportunities to undertake research. I can remember when I did some learning as an adult, and actually after I became a head teacher, I went and did a research degree, and it was great just to have the chance to stop and to think and to do some digging and look into the background of things. That doesn't mean you're wasting your time. It doesn't mean it's something that can be rushed through. The opportunity to pause and to think and to dig into the background is actually a great opportunity. And you know what? It's a fantastic preparation for the next stage of education. An awful lot of our students go on to higher education and to university. These skills are the building blocks of that work at university. So great if you can develop them now. We're putting all sorts of processes in place to keep in touch with you. Tutors have started phoning those in their tutor groups so they can see how things are going and just have a more general chat about how you're doing, any issues that are cropping up. Take that opportunity. Keep in touch. Let us know if there's any issues, if there are any problems. We want to help. Equally, I was talking to a colleague a couple of days ago who was saying they'd had to encourage a student to email in because they were finding a particular piece of work difficult. Don't hesitate. If you need help or you need to clarify something, get in contact with your teacher and they'll give you the help that you need. And the final thing I would say is enjoy it. Learning, whether it's face-to-face or remote, isn't meant to be like nasty medicine that you take to sort of get out the way. It's something that you can genuinely enjoy. And although you might not want to shout it from the rooftops, I think actually quite a lot of you do enjoy your time in school and the learning and opportunities that it gives to you. I was very struck when you all came back after the first lockdown and I asked your teachers how you were doing. And they told me that the overwhelming majority of you actually were ahead of where they might have expected you to be, where you normally would be, because you had learned so well during that period of remote education. This is actually a great opportunity to maintain that positive momentum. Of course, we'd much prefer to be face-to-face. Of course, we'd much prefer it if we could have you all with us in school, but for reasons that none of us can avoid, that's not sensible or practical or possible. But this is the next best thing. And I do hope that you have and continue to have a really positive experience of remote learning over the coming weeks.